Nikola Jokic is great. He's amazing. He's awesome. But Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown, to be honest, these guys are always going to be remembered fondly for their time in Denver. They are legends as Nuggets too. And we'll talk about appreciating them in this stretch. We're also going to talk about how to balance achieving some goals for next season in these last 25 games while competing for a championship. And we'll ask the question, do the Nuggets have a problem with physicality? All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us, being an everydayer, hanging out with us Monday through Friday. We do all sorts of shows for you. We're so glad to have you as part of our community. We appreciate all the great comments and support from everyone who enjoys the show, and appreciate all the views from everyone who hates the show, because money counts the same in my pocket. We're glad to have everybody, though. We're glad to have you with us on tonight's show. On today's show, we're going to talk about physicality. Oklahoma City had a real problem with Minnesota's physicality. I think that they're a team that gets bothered by physicality. Does Denver? Are the Lakers and Wolves games proof of that? Can Denver meet that physicality when the playoffs come? We're also going to talk about how to achieve some goals for next season and beyond, building for the future in these last 25 games, while also sharpening up for a playoff run and a chance at a title this season. But we'll start today with talking about some of the other guys. Speaking of which, we're some other guys. Not on that level, but we're just some random guys. We're lesser other guys. I'm Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. You can catch me at the Denver Dig. Ryan Blackburn's at Mile High Sports and the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. By the way, we have a daily newsletter. Go to lockedondaily.com and you can subscribe. Lots of folks have signed up for it. We have one of the larger followings of all the Locked On podcasts, and we like to make it even bigger so I can rub it in everyone's face on our meetings. So if you can go to lockedondaily.com and sign up, really appreciate it. And we do exclusive content there for you throughout Monday through Friday. Ryan, I wanted to do this because we got an off night. Talked about, you did the post game for the Pacers game. Appreciate that. That's why we did the show. We covered that. And so we got like a moment here to breathe. And I just kind of wanted to take a second because we have stress kvetched all year long about this team. All year.
It's my favorite skill.
And you're still, I don't know that you're worried. Have you passed worried into resigned?
I'm more resigned at this point than anything else. I think that, and I've made this perfectly clear, I won't belabor the point. I don't think that Denver's good enough to get through 4 rounds of the playoffs. And it doesn't mean you have to be like perfect in order to, like, that's not what sports is about. That's not what supporting the Denver Nuggets is about, frankly. It is about like putting together a great product on a consistent basis. And for like a team with Nikola Jokic, you just got to give yourself a chance. So they have a chance. I don't think it's a good chance, but they have a chance.
Yeah, resigned is, I think, interesting just because I do think back to like how the fan base felt in 2011 and 2012 and 2013. Like even that 57-win team, like I was telling people, I was like, this team's really good. Why don't you guys? And everybody was like, nah, they don't matter. They're not going to win anything. And they didn't. And that really pissed me off when the Warriors beat them and began their ascent. And then they were terrible. They were terrible from 2014 through 2018, and then in 19 they broke through. And so to have a team that's still this good, that is still like, this is a top two. There are so many teams that just want their team to be good. I do a podcast every day, daily, with Doug Branson. He does Locked On Hornets.
It's tough.
Imagine your life as the host of Locked On Hornets, Ryan Blackburn.
Yeah, it would be stressful. That's for sure. Or maybe it wouldn't be, and I would just like my expectations would change. But like it is fascinating to think about it from that perspective. Denver has won so many games over the course of these past 7 years. I think they've won the most games in the Western Conference in the last 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. So the consistency has been there. Other times where sometimes they've had some injuries that have prevented them from going further, but for the most part, they've been really freaking good. And it's been cool to see, and it's been cool to see the progression there. Jokic is, of course, the central piece of that. But as I think you're getting to, there's a lot of other folks that you can point to and say they have been very, very important.
Michael Porter Jr. is averaging 19 points per game, a career high, on 52% from the field, including 61% from two-point range.
Yep.
41% from three, and he shoots 75% at the line. He has been so good this year. He's taken so many steps forward. I know that there's all these like frustrating butts with MPJ, but like when he has been good, he has been great. And there were a lot of games this season, I think especially early on, where like Porter was getting them through parts of this season, and he's never really done that. There were not stretches, I thought, where I thought Mike was helping in these previous seasons, but Mike was legitimately the second best player on this team for like a long stretch of games. And I think that that's like really impressive to me that Mike has had that kind of a season, especially with how hard he works to try and be available.
I think Jamal's taken back that mantle lately, but it's taken a long time. And Mike, to his credit, carried the team for a little bit. Jokic, of course, gets the vast majority with what he does, and he gets rightly credited for that by everybody. But what Mike has done, like, think about it this way. Maybe not the royal we, but I almost tried to trade him in December and those early months of the season. And it wasn't really his fault. It was just the circumstances for how things have gone. But then he played through it and he played better and he just continued to work. And I give him so much credit. It's never been like there's always been a lot of respect there on the front of like he has shown up to work every single day, put his best foot forward, and he tries. Like that's the most important thing that you could say about somebody that we thought was going to be closer to a Carmelo Anthony type. You had to kind of coax that effort out of and that willingness out of on a consistent basis. Michael Porter's not that. He's a better teammate, I think.
He wants to be good, man. He wants to be good. He's mad at himself every time he blows a rotation. He's so mad. You can see it in his face.
Yeah.
Slams that ball down. It's like, damn it. Like he genuinely does care. But here's the thing that was like describing him that way makes him sound like what's the word for it? Like a Boston Celtics reserve who's going to win six man. Like a really good, like a player that just like gets the benefit of being out there because of, of those types of things.
Mighty Mouse.
And instead, MPJ is, by the way, David Stoudemire was named Mighty Mouse. Watch yourself. MPJ is like a supremely talented player. Like he really is very talented. I think putting together his game at his size is both a blessing and a curse, but he's had a really phenomenal season. Murray, I mean, look, we killed him every night. We killed him. DMVR killed him. The columns came from the Post. The columns came from the Gazette. National shows talked about, like Reddit was all over him. Comment sections constantly. This is the line. Like across the season, these are the numbers. This is what Jamal has done. He's averaging 21 points. Can't believe he's doing it again. 21 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, career high 1.4 in steals. He's shooting 48% from the field, including 52% from 2-point range and 40% from 3, along with 87% from the line. 21-6.
Career numbers, like that's pretty close to where he's supposed to be at this point in his career, which is wild given where he was. I've got some fun numbers to throw your way. Earlier this season on December 5th, I put out this graphic that basically was like, hey, here's the difference between early season Jamal Murray scoring and full season Jamal Murray scoring, just to show people that there was still hope that things were going to turn around for him. Earlier this year, he had a usage rate of 22.7% and a true shooting percentage of 52.4%. He has increased that to, this is my mistake. I think it's like 23.9 usage rate and a 58.4 true shooting percentage. He's gone from what was, I think, a very worrying efficiency level to somebody who's like putting up close to career highs, which is insane to do in 2 months, 2.5 months. Like that's a bonkers thing to do. He has turned his season around in a big way. He's playing decent defense. Not going to say it's great. Not going to say it's even good, but it's decent. And he has been the second best player for a significant period of time now.
21-6 will always now to be Jamal. Every time a player averages 21-6 for the rest of the time that I cover the Nuggets, I will think of Jamal Murray. I will always think of Jamal Murray for 21-6.
Love
and
it.
Good efficiency. And, it's important that we talk about the things that these guys can do as well as the things that we've illed them for when they haven't.
Of course.
AG's had a really rough season just he's been so hurt. There's so much stuff that he's gone through on a personal level. It's been really tough, but I'll just tell you, man, he still makes so many winning plays. Aaron just makes so many winning plays. He's such a great passer. And I don't think anybody really has given him the amount of credit that he deserves for being the kind of passer that he is. He's only averaging 3 assists this year because he's shuffling along at 27 minutes per game. And he's, missed a bunch and the rotations and lineups, but he's also shooting 43% from 3.
It's wild.
Sun's getting real low in that 3-pointer at the beginning of the year. We're like, oh, this is fun. He's hitting threes before he goes back to being a 32% 3-point shooter. But instead, no, man, he's shooting 43% from 3. He could punish teams if he keeps this up. This has been huge.
It's so massive. And we're so worried about what happened to that Lakers game because of the spacing problems for Denver. But if you noticed, there was one guy who was hitting shots on a consistent, 2 guys. It was Murray and it was Gordon. Those guys were spacing the floor extremely well in that game. They did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. And they took advantage of the fact that Jokic gets so much attention. So say what you want about Denver's core at this point. There are some, the sun might be getting low on what this core ultimately looks like heading into future years. We don't know. I think we've seen the best of what this core does together in 2023. Can they replicate that? Can they continue to do those things? I think the answer is yes, but I would lean towards no. I still think that there's something in the tank here for these guys. There's a reason why the Nuggets committed to them. There's a reason why they wanted to give them another shot. And I think that they are they're well positioned, regardless of what we think. They're in a pretty good spot to make a playoff run if they want to.
I'm not giving you power of attorney if I get old. I'm not doing it because the doc's gonna be like, yeah, look, he's comes outside of the hospital room, he's pretty healthy, and you're gonna look at him and be like, it's a shame. Well, you can go ahead and pull the plug. Well, no, he's Mr. Blackbird.
You're a racehorse that's developed a limp.
He's fully healthy. There's nothing wrong with him. Yeah, I'm glad that he's gonna go peacefully.
Oh my God!
Go ahead and end it.
Look, they're gonna. There would be nothing that would make me happier than them proving me wrong.
Does fruit spoil in your house faster? When you go in the kitchen, is it just you leave the kitchen and
Matt,
the
have you seen my takes? Everything that I touch turns to death. Everything that I say, everything that I do, the opposite becomes exactly what's supposed to happen.
Oh, we call it no jinx. Up next, the Nuggets, you're always playing for this year when you're in the Nuggets position, but you should always be trying to work on some stuff for the future. The front office does that, and the coaching staff needs to do that. So what do they need to accomplish for the end of the season in that respect? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Nuggets. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Happy Wednesday to you here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. Check out LockedOnDaily.com for a free daily newsletter from Ryan and me. All right, so The Nuggets have, how many games they got left?
24.
24. So there's some work to be done here, and they have to keep competing for the playoffs, and we've talked about the rest component and all this, that, and the other. There is an obligation, I think, to start looking at the future of this roster and evaluating guys, right? Like, certain guys, if they're not traded, will be here, but there's other decisions I think that have to be made on the rest of the roster. And so I think like an interesting question is, every time that a young player has a good stretch, he's the future. And every time that he has a bad stretch, he's unplayable. And so there's probably like a middle ground here. Like, there's probably bad games for Jalen Pickett and Zeke Naji around the corner, because those guys have had they've had a good 6-week stretch of basketball.
Yep.
It's been really good. What are the things that you kind of want to see from a future perspective with the scant bench minutes that are available for this Nuggets team over these last 24 games?
Well, that's a good place to start, I think. I think Michael Malone's got to open this up to a 10-man rotation. I think that should be his goal when Peyton Watson comes back. Because you can't just decide, hey, no, we're not going to play these guys anymore. We're not going to play Julian Strawther anymore. We're not going to play Zeke Naji anymore. We're not going to play Jalen Pickett anymore. We're not going to play whoever. I think the goal for this team, as you said, it should be to get to the playoffs as fresh as possible while winning as many games as possible. And you got to balance that, right? Like, you know who your main guys are, and you got to play them. Like, you're not just going to not play Jokic 38 minutes in a game because you have to rest. That's where you're going to do that. Michael Malone's going to do that. But I want to see Jalen Pickett not just be a DNP-CD for the entire rest of the year. I want to see Julian Strawther start some games in place of Michael Porter getting a rest, in place of Aaron Gordon getting a rest, in place of Jamal Murray getting a rest. I want to see those guys be as fresh as possible. And I would like to see Peyton Watson back on the floor when he gets available, and for the Nuggets to actually try to play him. Because we've seen this song and dance before with some young guys that get hurt. You kind of fade into the background, and then Michael Malone doesn't trust you when the playoffs roll around. And that just can't happen with one of your best perimeter defenders on the team. I think that they have to be willing and able to trust some of these young guys with some minutes in the playoffs, because just playing 6 guys, 7 guys every single playoff game, that is not the recipe for success for both now and in the future. I think you've got to keep expanding it. You have to find ways to play more people.
Who's more important down the stretch, Julian Strawther or Peyton Watson?
It's such a good question. Like, I think it's Peyton Watson, but it's not because of anything that Julian's done. Julian's played. Julian's gotten the reps. He's played pretty much every single game. Actually, yeah, he's played 58 games, all 58. Peyton Watson has played a total of 48 games, and he's played a little bit here, but Matt, I am worried about what happens when he comes back and doesn't play well, and then Michael Malone starts to feel pressure. Can I trust him? Can I trust him to do what I need him to do down the stretch of the regular season, let alone the playoffs? So I'm watching that very closely. I'm very high on Peyton still. I think that there are still some things that he can do and continue to add to his game and be a long-term piece of the future for this Nuggets team. They can't go away from him. They can't just start playing him 10 minutes or 7 minutes or 5 minutes. You got to play him 15 to 20 at least.
Okay. I'm not sure you do. I worry that the ship has sailed on his season a little bit.
And that's what I'm worried about. So I'm trying to fight against that.
Yeah, but I think it's more of just like, you can advocate. Don't set expectations that are just going to disappoint you. Don't do that, because you're just going to be mad about it.
I mean, that's what I do, man. That's just how I
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So I think it's tough, because it's like going to 10 now is the opposite of what most coaches want to do. Like, they want to go to an 8. You know, you got 20 games left. you want to rattle through an 8-game rotation, an 8-man rotation, maybe
And
9.
that's fine, but they were going 8.5 for the first 41 games of the year anyway.
I don't disagree.
So I don't think it accomplishes anything. You don't learn anything from those minutes anymore. You already know what you're going to do in those situations. Just get to those lineups at various points, try to win some games, but you've already done the hard work, haven't you, by going 38-20?
I do want to ask this. I think Zeke's emergence changes this equation a little bit. DJ can be a flaming disaster in the postseason. Definitely possible, probable. However, if we feel like you can, if DJ keeps playing decent and you can play Zeke at 4, can't you probably get through the rest of the minutes at the 3?
Yeah, I think you certainly can. You could stagger Michael Porter at the 3 as opposed to the 4. You could play Peyton Watson a little bit.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm saying if Watson's not in the rotation.
Yeah, and of course you could do that. I like the lineup: Jamal, Julian, Christian, Zeke, Aaron. Like I think that makes sense.
I like Zeke, DJ. Let's give him a screener. Okay.
I was thinking like playoff minutes and like what that's.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing the Thunder and you roll out Julian Strawther and DeAndre Jordan together. What could possibly go wrong? Like,
you're not wrong. But what I will say is that
I don't know.
The other direction too.
I'll also. How many great games has Peyton had this year?
It's been so long. Since the early portion of the season where he did help save the Nuggets as a starting 3-4 next to Mike while Aaron was out. He did really well in those games and had some big shots early in the season. Like these were huge shots. You were sitting right next to me when he was hitting big shots against OKC and Dallas. Like these are big moments for him. So I'm curious to see whether they could rekindle that. I don't believe that it'll happen though.
I want to ask you this, because I think it's a really this is what I always struggle with, okay? Does Michael Malone deserve the discretion of, based off of what he sees that we don't, to not play him?
I mean, of course he deserves it. He's got the best, he's got the bird's eye view of what's actually happening at every single moment of every single minute. But I also think that there have been times where, like, I'm a huge fan of Michael Malone. There are times where he is too close to the situation and is seeing red on some of these plays and some of these moments.
So it's not just him. That's a pretty standard coach thing.
Of course, yeah.
And I think the question is really interesting, and I don't have an answer for it because I go back and forth in my head. Well, I go back and forth in my head about literally everything. By the way, just as like a general statement, if any of you ever have something that you're just like, I don't like that opinion from me, just reach out to me on Twitter and be like, give me the opposite argument and I'll give it to you. Because I think about everything from multiple angles all the time. But I go back and forth on this where it's like the coaches see them in training and conditioning and player development and practice and scrimmage and meetings and film and scout work and all of it. Don't they deserve to be able to make the discretion of, you haven't put in the work, you haven't earned this opportunity, you haven't done what I need you to do, I don't trust you. On the other end of it, it's, look, man, you got to win games and you don't have any other options. And this is an athlete who can defend and you don't have any defenders. So you're going to have to roll with it because the fans want to win games and you want to win games. I don't know how to balance that.
Let me ask you this. One common axiom in the NBA is that you don't get removed from the rotation because you sustained an injury. Has Peyton Watson done anything to remove himself from the equation of what the Nuggets thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season? Has he done anything to dissuade you from that?
Yes.
Is it just the handling offensively?
There's too many moments in a game where I see multiple members of the team frustrated. It's not just the coaching staff.
Yeah, no, of course.
Malone's frustrated with everybody. Everybody he gets mad at. But it's coaches, it's Joker, it's the vets. there are just these moments, and he's young, and I think he gets to make these mistakes. And I think Peyton's going to have I think Peyton's going to have an incredible career.
Yeah,
I think he's going to.
I'll just say that Joker gets frustrated with all of the young guys except Christian. Like Christian, he's very clearly.
Yes, but there are levels.
Christian knows what he's doing. Julian, he gets frustrated with all the time.
Yes, but there are levels. I actually don't see as much from Julian because I think offensively, Julian generally doesn't make bad decisions.
Okay,
Julian's not making stuff up as he goes.
That is true. That's part of Peyton's growth process. And so in terms of thinking about this from a future perspective, like this is, I think, a very important conversation to have. Do you continue playing Peyton with the intention of playing him next year? Is he a possible trade chip that becomes available when you're trying to make an upgrade somewhere? Is there something that you need to do to ensure that like he is ready to be the most that he can be for next season? And I don't know the answer to that. This is the pinnacle point or the tipping point in so many players' careers right here, where you're a third-year player. You could either become a piece of the core, a piece of what you're trying to do long-term, or you could be a trade chip, or you could be a bench player, or you could be something else. And I just think the Nuggets have to do what they can to get him to that first option, if possible.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about physicality and whether it's a real problem for the Denver Nuggets. All that and more up next here on Locked On Nuggets. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here's a couple of ways you can take advantage of it. How about fueling your watch party? You can have people over to watch the Nuggets game, since we can actually watch them again on the television, on the TV, on the television box. Order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring options. You need a quick and easy lunch the next day? With Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores $50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon until midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Really good discussion, I thought, there in the second segment. We'll wrap it up here, and I'll ask you this question, Ryan Blackburn.
Yes, sir.
Do the Nuggets have a problem with physicality? The Thunder, I think, do. The Thunder got bodied a little bit by OKC, and it really kind of threw them off their rhythm. OKC is usually a pretty physical and aggressive team, but when teams respond with size and physicality, it bugs them. The Lakers obviously played super physical with them, especially in the passing lanes, and denying Joker in the entry pass, and we saw the results of that. Do the Nuggets have a physicality problem this season?
I think it's an overrated concern, honestly. I think that there are anecdotes that people can point to that say that they have a problem with physicality. People will point to the playoff series last year against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I honestly thought that was more, and we've gone over this a million times, more of a fatigue issue, more of a personnel issue, more of something that we knew that they were a bad matchup for against Minnesota for a variety of reasons. A lot of that was because they didn't have the right guy to defend Anthony Edwards and the right backline defense to really help behind whatever they were doing there. And then you see what it was against the Lakers. I just don't think they were prepared. I don't think they were prepared for what they were going to see. I think they were pretty uncertain about how things were going to go in that game, and they got punched in the mouth and then didn't respond. They handled physicality so well in the 2023 season. That was one thing that I think you can't have as a knock against them. Anytime any team really tried to get physical with them, they punched them right back. They used their size, they used their physicality, they used their athleticism. And the NBA Finals, I think, was a great example of that. or you're going up against Miami and all they're trying to do is rattle you. All they're trying to do is make you uncomfortable. And I think Michael Porter kind of struggled a bit. He still had an okay series. I think Jamal Murray handled it really well. I think Nikola Jokic handled it really well. I think Bruce Brown, KCP, and Aaron Gordon handled it really well as well. So, like, I don't think that it was a physicality problem then, and I don't think that they're going to have as many problems with physicality this year as people seem to think that they will.
All right, so let's switch a little bit. Can they be the physical team though?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, here's the thing that I think people forget. They are huge. They're huge across the board, and so much of using your physical advantages is knowing how to use them and being able to beat people to the spot and knowing exactly and being definitive in what you're doing. They failed at that against the Lakers, but I absolutely have faith. And like, they even showed it against Indiana. Like, how much bigger were they and stronger were they? Was Michael Porter against Aaron Nesmith and Benedict Mathurin, these smaller wings that you just can't match up with? There'll be some matchups where it's a little bit different, but can Michael Porter score over Cason Wallace, over Lou Dort, over Alex Caruso in a playoff series? Aaron Wiggins? I think he can. Will he be able to get to those spots consistently enough? Will Jamal Murray be able to navigate on the perimeter a little bit? I think he's one that I'd be a little bit more concerned with. But could Aaron Gordon go through some of those guards on switches? Yeah. Could Nikola Jokic go through Chet Holmgren? Yeah. I think that I'm using the OKC Thunder here as an example because we talked about them earlier before we started the show. They're also a team that struggles with physicality and struggled against the Lakers, weren't they not?
Yep. Well, that was more size, but yeah.
But Denver has size too. Like, I think they have size across the board.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different, but yeah. I have maybe a little bit more concern just from I don't know if they are equipped to play physical right now, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see what the matchups hold. And if
Zeke Naji bringing that juice, he might just change the equation a little bit.
Sure. Thanks for joining us here on Locked On Nuggets. Appreciate you guys being with us. It's been fun. This has been a good episode. Ryan and Swipe will be with you on Thursday. We'll do post-game show after the Nuggets game on Thursday night. And then Swipe and I will do the show on Friday. And then we will have another post-game show for you on Friday night. So lots of shows coming up. Thanks for joining us. Follow Ryan on Twitter and make sure to check out Pick Action Roll as well on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets. Zeke Naji, the enforcer.
Be physical.